Okay, so I guess with 6 o'clock and we can start. So welcome everyone to leveraging the cloud to deploy and run your backend app. Maybe just quickly before we begin, since you all heard about this webinar, or this event actually probably through Women++, we thought it would be a good idea to quickly introduce to you to who Women++ is. So Women++ is actually a non-profit organization, Switzerland-based, and it's really focused on bringing more gender diversity to tech in Switzerland specifically. So we have 4 core values, which are leadership, education, inclusion, and collaboration, and this really guides how we design our initiatives. And when I talk about initiatives, we have a number of which we run through the year. 2 flagship initiatives specifically, one of which you might have heard about, Hack and Lead. This actually is also an event which is a preparatory event for Hack and Lead, and Hack and Lead is actually a women-friendly hackathon. Now, what does that mean, women-friendly hackathon? It means everyone is, of course, welcome. But at the same time, we did try to design it based on research to make it a little bit more attractive, not just to women who are in tech, but also to women who are trying to transition into tech. Meaning we focus a little bit more on preparation rather than competition. We want to focus on creating a collaborative environment which is a safe space as well, which means no overnight coding. We want to focus a lot on contribution when it comes to also the learning process. And as you see right at the end there, we also offer childcare. So I think one thing to really highlight about this format and the results that this format usually brings. So this year we are actually running the 3rd Hack and Lead, or the 3rd edition of Hack and Lead. We usually have around 100 to 150 participants, 80% of which are women, and really a broad sort of diversity of skills. Not just tech skills, so really front-end, back-end development, UX, UI design, but also project management, and maybe a little bit more also focus on, say, pitching and business. So what you see here, yes, these are generally the statistics. I think one thing that is interesting about Hack and Lead, for anybody who might not have been to a hackathon yet, or who doesn't really know the format, is what we really focus on is having sufficient amount of mentors. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it's really important for us to facilitate learning as part of Hack and Lead. And as a result of that, we try to have as many mentors who can accompany this process and also guide the learning process during these 2 days. So with all of that being said, the reason that you're actually here, which is Iris Hunkeler, who will be presenting your workshop for today, which is leverage the cloud to deploy and run your backend app. Now, Iris is a passionate software engineer, has worked in multiple industries from consulting all the way to in-house as well, has experience as a Scrum Master, a project manager, a requirements engineer as well. And she's really motivated to find achievable and elegant solutions to complex problems, which help her clients reach their individual goals. Not just is Iris presenting today, but she's also an ambassador for Hack and Lead, and she excuse me, embarked on this initiative to really support potential participants with hands-on workshops like today's. So on that note, Iris, thank you very much for being here, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And also from my side, a very warm, well, literally warm welcome to today's workshop. So leverage the cloud to deploy and run your backend app. I mean, it's fantastic that you read this title and still are here, because it's not very clear what we're going to do, right? So maybe let's first dive into what are actually the goals of today. So, I mean, with a workshop like this, it's always difficult where do you start? I assume you have a very broad diversity of experience here, and my goal is to make sure that like each and everyone here today has some things that can like take home from today. So I actually start with like some basic introduction to what is the cloud. So you don't need like any previous knowledge in this area before. And why are we actually talking about this? I want you to understand like the difference between what we call like provisioned resources and serverless resources. Those terms mean nothing to you at the moment. That's perfectly fine. If you already know what it is, also perfectly fine. I want you to be able to identify use cases that, well, to actually, build and deploy your app in the cloud. And this is why it's a workshop. If all goes well, we all get to deploy a first serverless application on AWS today. But again, like with the practical part, we have like different options to do this. You can either do this by yourself, with a partner, with the group. We will figure this out when we get to this point. I feel like I don't even have to say all that much about me. I've already got such a lovely introduction. Thank you very much. As Matt has said before, I'm kind of here in a role as ambassador for Hack and Lead. Like you've already heard everything about that. And what I really enjoy is also about the format of Hack and Lead. It's kind of this enabling format that you get to learn things. You get to like, it's not just a competition. It's not just, and then I have like done this that is like so much cooler than everything else. But it's about learning together and about trying new things. And this is what we want to do today. As I kind of said, from like the order, we start with looking at the cloud introduction. We will specifically look at AWS because it's still kind of the biggest cloud provider there is at the moment. We will then write a first very simple Lambda function. You will all get to know what this is. And that is probably around the time we'll take a break. But again, we'll take it flexible with the time. Then we will look at like some other helpful services that AWS offers. And the goal is we want to build like a small to-do list app today together. And in the end, well, we hopefully look back at all the things we have achieved. And with this, welcome to the cloud. But what does that actually mean? What is the cloud? And when we think about like this idea of the cloud, which means nothing in the beginning, for me, it always helps to think about what does it replace? What was there basically before using the cloud? And that goes back to thinking about what did companies traditionally have to do to provide, to run any kind of application. And that starts at the like very physical level, like you have a data center where there are like servers inside. We have here that they are somehow connected with like networking and storage. You have some operating system, like some kind of, like you have Windows on or Mac OS on your laptop that's also running on servers. You have database management. So this is when we talk about storage, where you can actually like store data. And in the end, this is kind of like what we all know, right? We have applications. That is kind of anything. A lot of applications today run in the cloud. I think if you have worked with Office 365, that is like running in the cloud. If you look at any website in your browser, that is running in the cloud, most likely. And now, what does this mean? So as a user or as a someone that works with cloud, there are like different service levels we can work with. If we just use the like very, very basic levels, it's called infrastructure as a service. That means as a company, or also like as a private person, I do not have to have my own data center, but I still kind of have to like deal with everything else. Then we have like the level of like platform as a service, when you also like get the whole database management, you get the whole operating system. And if you get like everything, we call this software as a service. And what we want to also look at today is kind of like, especially with this like serverless perspective I've mentioned before, well, we don't have a data center here. We don't want to have a data center, and still we will use the cloud to deploy an application. At this point, I also kind of have to talk about the whole topic of my titles as your backend application. Again, what does that even mean? If you have like any kind of application, or let's say most applications have a front end, have a backend. The front end is what you see on your screen. It is like, it runs on maybe your phone or on your laptop. It's typically like has a pretty user interface, which is why I'm not working with front end. I do not have the patience to make a user interface pretty, unfortunately. One thing that I kind of want to point out here is you cannot share information between different devices. So if you have some kind of application that you have on your phone and you have like the same information on your laptop, like let's say your email account, maybe you have an email account from Google, Gmail, then you see the same information on any device. That means there must be something more. It's not just stuff running on the device itself, but there must be something else. And this is where a backend comes into place. And here is actually, yeah, this runs on a server, as we've kind of heard before. And here we can actually like store data and share data with like different devices, different users. And the whole topic of data storage, I already mentioned. Also, as said today, before already today, we will kind of like take this backend perspective. So when I talk about an application, it's not going to be something that is like has a pretty UI. It's something that we will use a tool called Postman to call like some endpoint, and we just get some text back. So I hope that's okay with everyone. It's also what I typically work on. So if in I think many teams, a lot of engineers kind of at least focus on one or the other. There are definitely also people doing both, but there is often a bit of a split because there are like different technologies used, different skills used. And yeah, I'm definitely focusing more on the backend side. Why are we doing this on AWS? Because very simply put, it is still the biggest and oldest cloud provider. And yeah, I like your serverless offering, so I'm excited about this. The other two big cloud providers are Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud. As you can see, if you like sum this up, they make up about 2/3 of the entire market. So they are definitely like three very, very big players, and there are like not that many alternatives around. All right. And now let's dive a little bit deeper. I already mentioned those words when we like talk about provisioning resources or so-called serverless resources. When we provision resources, this is basically as a user, we define what we want. We define we want to run some kind of computation that will take 2 hours. We define the memory we want. We define the kind of like machine we want. We don't need to buy this. Like we don't have to invest in infrastructure. We can provision this on the cloud. And this is like follows a pay what you ordered model. So it doesn't really matter. You're going to actually do this computation that you were planning to do or not. You ordered this, you're going to pay for this. Then kind of what we will do today is we will use serverless resources. And that has a bit of a weird name. So serverless does not mean there are no servers. It means we as a cloud developer don't have to think about the servers. They just basically are there. The service is basically always available. We don't have to like tell you, yeah, we need the service at like, I don't know, 8 o'clock tonight. We can just call the service and It's gonna like be available for us, but we only pay for what we use. And this, yeah, if you look at the cost part, here we know exactly what we're gonna pay because we know exactly what we order. Here we don't actually know what we're gonna pay. It depends on the use. That sounds dangerous at first, but it's typically for like variable workloads can often be cheaper. So if it's like very predictable, we definitely want to go with this one. If something is like unpredictable and irregular use, we can go with an approach like this. And what we're going to try today, it's fantastic for prototyping. The whole workshop we're going to do today does not cost you a single cent. And we still like, yeah, do some fun stuff on the cloud. You can build surprisingly big projects, surprisingly big applications on AWS and not pay a single cent. Yeah, with serverless resources, and that's actually fantastic. All right. So at this point, yeah, I kind of just want to point out that when we talk about the cloud, it's not like some weird fuzzy thing that like, you know, like some cloud somewhere. It's just somebody else's computer. Somebody that is providing those resources so we don't have to buy them as like a physical infrastructure. We can basically rent it. And I really like the picture of the cloud. So I think that fits. And with this, let's look a bit more at AWS. AWS started in 2006. And is part of Amazon. They have a set of like cloud-based products available globally. AWS is like organized into regions. You can see them here. I'm not sure how good the color is way back, but it should be a like world map. With the gray, it might be a bit tricky. And they have over like 200 services at the moment, I think, and counting. I have to also honestly say, I don't know all of them, not by far. But we will look at, I think, about 7-ish today. So yeah, we will use a few of them, and yeah, some of them are for like different use cases. We have different options. Coming back to, well, free things are nice. AWS has a very generous free tier, as they call it, and this basically enables us to just like start experimenting and exploring. There are 3 different types of like free tiers. We have like free trials, which now I have to think. You get it for free, I think 12 months after you activate the service. I'm not quite sure about that one anymore. You get it 12 months for free after you create your account, or some stuff is always free to a certain amount. And here, these are some of the services we will use today. AWS Lambda we will use. We get 1 million requests a month for free. I mean, today we, I don't know, make maybe 10 or 20 requests just for testing. So just to kind of like get this into perspective, you can really build quite a good application with this, with like real production usage and still not pay anything at all. And this brings us to the point of, well, to do the practical exercises today, you do need an AWS account. Who already has an AWS account? Cool, about half, I would say. The other half, you have kind of like the option, you can create an AWS account now. It doesn't take very long. Kind of the one thing you need to be aware of, even though we will not spend any money, you do need to enter a credit card. And yeah, this is kind of something that you have to choose for yourself if you want to do this or not. Afterwards, when we start with the practical exercise, you can either pair up with someone, or we can also see to like do the exercise a bit more in a group setup, or you can go through the account creation. Then kind of the second thing is budgeting, because as I mentioned, we don't want to spend any money. And to know that we don't accidentally spend money, AWS uses what they call AWS budget. And we can just create a budget, and there is even a template called Zero Spend Budget. Yeah, the picture is not good enough. I don't think you can read much there. But you can use this template. You enter your email address, you click Create Budget, and now as soon as, if you click something by accident that would cause spend of money, you get an email automatically. And I also have this set up on my own account just to like be aware, yeah, even if I like try some stuff out and for like the provision resources, if I forget to turn something off, I'm not gonna wake up with a huge bill at some point. Just in case, if that would happen to you, AWS is actually very well known to be very generous in case mistakes like this happen. So yeah, I've heard from quite a few people that accidentally, like, I don't know, tried training their own ChatGPT model and didn't realize, yes, that's going to be expensive. Yeah, AWS typically helps. Let me check the time. Okay. Also, what I just want to point out, you can also close your account. If you feel like, yeah, no, I just don't want this anymore. It's like a two-step process. You click on your account, you scroll to the bottom and click Close Account, and that's it. So, I mean, just having the account absolutely costs nothing. But yeah, just so you have this option. All right. What is the goal of our exercise? As I mentioned, I want us to build our own to-do list app together. I have here some planned functionality. Well, we of course want to like read all the items. We want to create a new item. We want to delete an item, well, if we have done it, because that's kind of the point of the to-do list, to get things done. And these are all things that you can easily like do without any like cloud requirements or anything at all. So I throw in like this aspect here as well as just a tiny little feature. We want to also then set up like a reminder that every day, for example, we get an email telling us, hey, this is the like, you have, I don't know, 3 to-dos today that you should get done. Yeah, that we like can get this. And all of this, we want to run in the cloud in a serverless setup. All right, so far so good. Yes, I see some smiles, that's good. Now, I've already talked quite a bit about AWS Lambda. What is that actually? It's, well, AWS Lambda is just a name. It's a name of a service from AWS. And it's serverless, fantastic, that's what we want. It's event-driven, meaning like anything can trigger it. It's a compute service, so it can run some logic, it can do computation. It supports multiple languages. We will use Python today because, well, it's fairly easy to use, it's fairly easy to read. And you can also do the exercises in different languages. The like example solutions I have are all in Python. So, but yeah, since it's a language that is fairly easy to read, I felt like that should be fine. And also, as I kind of mentioned before, it's part of AWS free tier, so we can use quite a bit of it without having to pay for it. And with this, we come to our first exercise. And yeah, this is now kind of where we have to define how do we want to do the exercises. We have the option, you can either try some of them on your own, and now would then also be the time to like create an AWS account if you don't have that yet. Option number 2 is that we do it together as a group, and you can kind of follow along in your own account. I think let's do a vote. Who would like to go for option number 1, doing the exercises individually? Raise your hand. who would like to go for option number 2 and doing the exercises together in the group and click along? Okay, I think that is almost unanimous. Sorry, Jan. Okay. I have here, I hope you can still see me. I'll put this bit to the side. Oops, sorry. Right. I have here a link to, no, that's not the break. Let me open this one, ideally. Come on. Oh, it's not formatted as a link. Open link. It brings you to this page, where I just have created like some how-tos also about like the things we're going to do today, that you can also like kind of get this again afterwards. But this is kind of like to more as a reminder also. So what we want to do is let's get back to our practice. We want to at first build a Lambda function that returns this to-do item. It doesn't have like any storage, no database, nothing, just like very, very simple first attempt. And for this, first of all, we log into our AWS console. I actually quickly sign out. Then we can do this together. This. So if you have your account, you can go to your, because this is just my private account. I have a user with my first name, and then I can sign into this. As you can see here, I have activated multi-factor authentication. Very good practice to do this. So I quickly have to do this as well. Okay. Can you, oh, that is not a good look. Let me make this bigger. At least try to. How does this look? Is this readable? Yeah. Okay. So we are now here on the AWS console. Just so I know who is clicking along, who is on this page now? Who still needs a moment to get on this page, but would like to get on this page? Okay. Okay. Then I quickly give you a moment to log in.
How did you get to the Lambda function? So I'm in AWS. How did you get into Lambda function?
Are you here in the AWS in the console? Oh, this here is just my recently visited ones. So you can already see which services we are likely going to use. Let me quickly check. How does it look for you? Yes, no, that's good. Yeah, okay. You can just, if you click on the AWS, then you get
to the main page. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and here, because this is like what you've recently visited, you have different selections.
Thank you.
Right. Who needs more time? Okay. We will do the first exercise. We will then, like, after this, have time for a break anyways, and then we can still like see what's happening and who needs some help. So what we want to do is we create the Lambda function. So I could just click here, but this is my recently visited, so we can just search for Lambda. Go to the service. You can see this is already one here. Your list should be probably empty. So we go to create function. And the things I'm doing now are actually also the things you can find here into how to create a Lambda function, more or less.
I am role.
We will do this for the second part. Right now, it's okay. Right now, we don't need it. I personally like to start with the Lambda function because I think it's most fun. You can actually like see something happening. So we can give it a name. And I think I just called it like stateless to do. And I want to do this in Python. I am not experienced enough in Node.js.
Can you go a little bit slower?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. All right. I quickly leave this here. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. And then we create this function. And that just should take just a moment. Ideally. All right. And now you should get the information. We have successfully created our stateless to do. And at the moment, it's doing, well, nothing. We can here scroll down. And then on the first tab, we should see our code. And that is actually also something that is like very neat about working with Lambda. You can hear directly, and we will do this afterwards. Write code. You don't have to. You don't need like some coding environment. If you want to, you can do everything here. And what we can do now, we can just click on the test button, where we have to create a new event. So I think we have to give it a name. I just do this as an empty event. And actually, I just delete everything here in the JSON except the curly brackets which open and close. Because we just want to trigger the Lambda once. And then we can use this one with test. And when we do this, we get a result. So we can now see here, this is just like some default code. It even says here to do implement. It returns a status code. It returns a text in our return values, and we can see the results where we just like get this information. So if we change now, let's say from our workshop, we can deploy this again just by the press of a button and test it again. And now we get a different result. And this is kind of what I really like about Lambdas, is that it's very quick to like make changes and get a result. But this was fairly fast now. So who managed to test a Lambda function yet? Yes, who could like get a response from the Lambda function? Okay. Who is still stuck, or where are you stuck at the moment?
I didn't get the whole name.
Sorry?
So I got stuck in the instruction. You have to select what previously created.
No, sorry. That is, yeah. When creating, yeah, I see what you mean. This is for like the full function we do before. You can use, I think it's called like automatically create. Let me quickly create the function.
Just create a new role.
You can, exactly, you can stick with this one for that, because here we don't like connect to any other services, so we don't actually need any special permissions. We will need this afterwards. For this example, you can use this one. Okay. Any other issues at the moment? Who is having another topic?
Well,
Sorry?
my credit card.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
What do you have for the event is the file?
Yeah. We can go back to configure events. It's just exactly, you can delete everything except the curly brackets, just open and closing curly brackets. And I called it empty event because, well, there is no content yet. Okay. I mean, this is now really just like the default Lambda we start with. We actually wanted now to, let's go back here. What we want to is we want to kind of hand in a to-do item and get it back. So we want to be able to like put some data into the Lambda and get this data back. So, and here we can go to, at the very bottom of the instructions. Excuse me, you actually find the code. So here we're now at the first one, the stateless to do. I open this one, and well, that is also not readable. And what I do now, I just copy this code and bring it into my Lambda function. I just throw it in here. And what we can see now, it looks a tiny bit different. We still like return a status code. We're actually like trying to get some information out of the event. So now in the next round, we will actually do a different input in the event. And then what we want to do, what the goal is that we should get this message. You should do, and then the description with the due date that we pass into the Lambda function.
Before the message stream, you have an extra.
Yes. But the formatting is weird. Yes. The F is needed so that Python knows within your string you can have like exactly you can have variables. Again, I deploy this. And let's actually see what happens if we run this one. Okay, we have now sent our empty event, and we now get an error because our Lambda is not happy. We're trying to read a description here out of the event, but the event doesn't actually contain a description. So now we go back to our test event. We want to create a new one, and let's say a test to do. We have a description. You should, let's say, plans. And we have a due date. Today, probably, because it's very, very warm. So we're now creating a new event. I give you a second to make sure everyone got this.
Where is the source?
Sure. It is here. If you can either, well, scan the QR code, but on mobile, then you're on mobile and you probably don't want this. I have a bit.ly address created with how to AWS. Yes.
And go to register, which is called cloud to do that.
Here.
GitHub Iris Hunkeler.
Yes, you can find it directly, but then, yeah, you have to go through the repositories, Cloud To Do App, and then it's actually hidden a little bit in the documentation. So this URL might be the fastest way. And I mean, I'm aware it's not a like step-by-step guide because yeah, it is a workshop. So part of it is also which goes where. So it just gives some hints and some links to the source code. Right. So I now save our new test event here, and let's see if that one works. Yeah, that one works. So now we get here this message. You should water the plants. Well, that's in the past. That was not very clever of me. But that is actually fairly real because I often forget to water my plants. So yeah, maybe I should use this to-do list and fix the date in here. Who managed to do this? Yes. Where are questions? How can I help?
How can I test again?
Um,
Because if I press test, I get my answer, but I cannot modify it like before.
you mean modify the code? Here. Yeah, because when you click on test, you automatically jump to execution results. Here you have to go back to Lambda function. Then you can edit your code. If you edit your code, you always have to click deploy first. And then you should be able to test again. That doesn't work?
No, I mean, where you put the message and the due date.
You can, if you don't click on like the big part of the button, but on the little arrow, you can go to configure test event and here create a new one.
Okay.
Oops, that is definitely not what I wanted.
So I tried to follow you from the beginning. Tiny bits go faster, and then I got to this box, and now I'm expecting instructions from the beginning.
Yeah, we're not actually there yet.
I'm not quite sure where you are in that case, because what I have in the meantime, I have a Lambda function, I have a table, I have an EIM role, and that's it.
You're actually far ahead already. We haven't done okay.
Show me again, how did you get this answer?
Okay, but that is good to know. The instructions. Okay.
Okay, cool. And if I may ask just a question part, do you maybe have a slide where you show us the architecture of these parts? Because I mean I do understand most of it, but it would be still interesting. For example, for the parts that you still need to do how it all comes together.
Yes. I was saving this a little bit for later on, but it's not a problem. It probably makes sense to look at the goal. You can also actually find this here.
I think that's
here. But I mean, yeah, I would say let's quickly go through this and kind of look at what our target is in the end. And that is probably a good time for a break. What do you say, Matt? Okay, good. So this is what we want to achieve in the end. What we want to achieve is, and I start in the middle, we want to have a Lambda function with here, like it's really not well readable, but you can actually find this if you've been on the like page with the instructions here. Sorry, let me quickly go back. If you're here on this instruction page, you can just go to the starting page of this repository, and then you can like also see this, and I hope on your screen it should look better. So what we want to have is we want to be able to create items, read items, and delete items using like an API gateway. This will then actually make what we do here in the Lambda functions available to outside, because the Lambda function with it now, you can't call this like from, let's say, your mobile phone. It's just within your AWS account, and it's not accessible from the outside. This is what we will do here. Then we want to like be able to make those changes in a database. So here we will have a database table. And this kind of first part is to just create, read, update, delete lists or items on our to-do list. And then kind of the part here below, this is kind of what we want to try at the very end. This is all about creating this like notification email that I mentioned in the beginning. But this is really just for, let's say, step 3 probably. Questions so far? This was very fast now. We will, after the break, go into the details, but it might help to get a first bit of an overview of the target. Okay, then I would say we do a short break. How long? Yeah, maybe 10 minutes. Feel free to grab me and to like, I'm happy to like help out if you're stuck somewhere, answer questions. And the goal at the moment really is just this like very first part, what we actually do not have on this overview. What we're actually building at the moment is just this one. We throw in some information, we have our stateless to do that does nothing, it just throws the information back out. We don't need a table, we don't need a role. This is what we've been doing at the moment. So still the like very, very simple part. If you already have roles and everything, perfect, but you're far ahead. Okay, cool. Then let's take a break.
Stay 10 minutes. There's water at the back, there's some food at the back, and for anybody who's feeling alcohol, you can wait until the end, and we have a coffee.
All right. If you have questions, just shout. After this lovely break, let's get back to this overview of what have we actually been doing so far. We have, well, already had or have created an AWS account. We have looked at budgeting rules to make sure you don't like accidentally spend money you don't want to spend. And we built, deployed, and tested our first simple and stateless so far Lambda function. Now after the break, for whom did it work? Who could like deploy and test our stateless to do? For whom did it work? Perfect. That looks fairly good. That is fantastic. I'm happy. So now we're getting to like the more tricky stuff. All right. I kind of mentioned like the target we want to reach. And for this, we need some more services. I quickly mentioned AWS API Gateway. So an API is basically a service you can call. And API Gateway from AWS is an easy and, again, like serverless way to do this. And here we can, well, I always describe it, it's kind of the front door to our application. So like this Lambda function we like created earlier, this exists now in your account, but I can't call any of your Lambda functions, or you can't call each other's, for example. With API Gateway, we want to change this. It can be directly integrated into the Lambda, so this is fantastic, that's what we want. And again, it has like a very generous free tier, especially like for those who have the account created just now, but I don't even know what the price is, but negligible. 1 million calls per month, at least in the first 12 months for free. what we will also use is Dynamo DB, because, well, we actually want to store our to-do list somewhere, right? At the moment, we tell it, hey, tell me to water the plants. Oh yeah, please water the plants. That's not helpful. We want an actual list. And for this, we will use Dynamo DB. It's a fast, very flexible, so-called NoSQL database service. So this means there is like no fixed schema. We don't have to first define how exactly this table is going to look like. Its creation is going to be very fast. And here as well, it's a part of the AWS free tier, like 25 gigabyte of storage. That is a lot. I hope you never have so much on any of your to-do lists. It's always free. And if you do, then, well, maybe you should figure out how to deal with to-dos. And this is kind of like for like reading, creating, deleting our items. And I think we will leave it at this for now. If we look back, I'm jumping around a bit, sorry. Yes, loading, please, thank you. So this is kind of like this part up here. This part down here with like the reminder email, we leave away from now. We will go to this as a like next step. So let's go to the practical part. And where is the instruction? Let me go back to the instructions. Now, the order of those instructions actually are what we're going to do. So because now we want our Lambda function to be able to work with different services, we first need to create an IAM role that we can then later use. Because in AWS, if a service calls another service, that service needs access rights. By default, you just can't call other services. Yeah, it's just kind of a security precaution, which I think makes quite a lot of sense. So we go back to our AWS Management Console and search for IAM. Then, like, I'm really not a fan of the size. In the dashboard, you like get some security recommendations. Apparently, I should check something about AWS billing. I should look at this maybe. What we actually want to do is we want to go to the roles part and create a new role. And now I will just check what have I written in my instructions. Yes, it's for an AWS service. Makes sense. Oops. This is already the default. Our use case, as we have written here, is Lambda, because yeah, we want a Lambda to allow other services to call. And yeah, we don't actually want to do this use case. We do this ourselves. We go to the next step. And here, the UI is a bit weird. So bear with me for a second. We have like those 3 access rights we want to give to this role. And I copy this. You can hear in this, like, we now define a role and we like add different policies to it. So we now search for this policy. I put it here. I press enter. And I press this checkbox. And now I remove this filter again. And now it looks like I don't have anything, but it's still there. We will see it afterwards again. And
I don't find your step-by-step document very grateful.
Yes, it's okay. And then we do the same here for CloudWatch. We're not actually going to look at this, but this is to like write and read logs. And again, I put it in here, I press enter, and I select the checkbox. And then I clear the filters again. And we give it AWS Lambda full access. Same procedure, copy, enter, checkbox. And then we press next and go to like review. And if you scroll down, here you actually find the permissions again that you have added. So here you should see like all three that we have added before. And I think I have defined some nice name to do Lambda role. I give it a name. And that should be it, yes. Great row. Cool. Yeah, I've done this before while testing, obviously. So I call it to do Lambda role 2. You should not get that error. Okay, now we're creating this this role. Did this work? Who could successfully create their role? Okay, I'll still give you a moment. I think we are at about half. I show these instructions again. For those who already created the role, feel free to already try creating a Dynamo DB table based on the instructions we have here. We will go through afterwards, but feel free to go ahead. All right, any questions or issues with creating the role? Okay, then we move on to the Dynamo DB table. So we search for Dynamo DB. By the way, you can also see like a lot of the services we're using. I actually have them here in my favorites. This is when you like press this this star. And these are services I use fairly often, so then I can just click here and don't have to type because I'm lazy and don't want to type all the time. I go to tables, and yes, I should have cleaned up my example. I delete this table first. Now I think I need to wait a second. Or I give it a different name. We have the to-do table, and I call it to-do table 2 again, just like my role. The partition key, this is like the only field we actually need to define in Dynamo DB. We give it a name, we just say it's the ID, which is fairly simple. Then we go to the customized settings. Where are they? Here, customized settings, I think. Yes, customized settings and on demand. Here. And here we're talking again with this selection between like on demand and provisioned. This is like this topic of provisioned or serverless again. If we choose provisioned, we have to define basically the amount of data we want to write and read to this table. And then we will have to pay for this amount. But this is not actually what we want. We really just want to do some very, very simple prototyping, and then we can choose this on demand. And this is like just a different word for serverless, basically. And I think that should be it.
So the capacity calculator, you have a widget about so this is just a simulation of the process. It's not really set up. You're not configuring, you are simulating. You have this many reads per second and so on. I would end up paying 70 cents per month. That's the idea.
Yeah, so this calculator, yeah, you can say like, I mean, first of all, it's an average. Like you just say like, okay, on average, my item size is this big, and I have like, I don't know, 5 writes per second, 5 reads, and maybe 2 writes per second. And this is then the estimated cost. This is then what it will pay depending on, like in the end, what we see here is like the read and write capacity units that are being provisioned, that are being used. This is just. If we go for provisioned, this is basically what you pay fixed. And then you have like just this available. If you go for on demand, like the prices are actually higher for each read and write, but you don't pay for when you actually don't use it, which again, for like just simply prototyping and experimenting is just the best, because you can like try something and I don't know, wait 5 weeks and try some more 5 weeks in the future. And you don't actually pay for when you don't use it. So we create a table.
Just a question. So whoever you put on demand, that means just like you just pay for the straight usage.
Yes.
Okay. So the model which you are describing, you just always put everything on demand, so resources are on there, but until you call them, it doesn't cost anything.
Exactly. Like, yeah, as long as you, same with the API Gateway, same with the Lambda functions, as long as you don't call any of them, they don't cost anything. If you like use the provision setup, you have to, it's like you buy capacity. You say like, okay, this is what I want, this is what you get, and this is what you pay. And it doesn't matter if you use it or not. It's still kind of like you have a base amount then.
Sorry, even with this on-demand option, right? For our free account with $1, we will spend it very fast, right?
No, you will.
I still don't understand, because you just showed this calculator very, actually very easily. If we say 1 read or 1 write per second, it already costs more than $0, right?
Okay, so during this exercise, you put on demand, that means that you call somehow, or you perform some calls during this exercise, okay? But you don't call anything. This is the calculation, just if you call a service, all right? So
every second. 1 read every second.
Okay, so if we just test it, as you say, like once or
that
twice,
means
then it's
you pay probably no exercise or whatever. Okay, so this calculation, or actually I don't know exactly the going on over there, but what does it mean on demand is just like if you don't use the service and it's still laying over there, you don't perform any calls. Yeah.
okay.
So that,
And I mean, this is not the first like prototyping I'm doing. This is my bill. So like,
I think now we're
and yeah, and somewhere, let me see, because Dynamo DB, it is my biggest expense, but it's like sub 1 cent somewhere. Because somewhere, no, I don't see it here anymore. Somewhere I could see that like it would cost me like $0.0000 something dollars, which is obviously not an amount, well, that is possible to pay. So yeah, it's okay. All right. So what have we done so far? We created an IAM role. We created a Dynamo DB table, and now we create a new Lambda function, similar to what we have done before. We go back to Lambda. We create a new Lambda function, and here, I mean, this was now actually the name from what we had before. We want to create this one, where you find the code and the name at the very bottom of the instruction. CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. This is kind of the functions we will want to cover. Let me also quickly open this. So we again say author from scratch. We give it the name. We again want to do Python. And now we actually have to select the role. We didn't have to do this before. Oops, open again, please. Cool. Use an existing role. And now, no, what was it called? To do. Oh, my memory's bad. To do Lambda role. And I think I called it to do Lambda role 2. Exactly. You can see here one was from testing earlier. And this is the one I created during the workshop. And I can create the function again. All right. And then here from the instructions, I have opened the code. And same as before, I will just copy everything. As you can see, this time it's a bit more. We will have a quick look at it, but not actually go into all the detail. All right, this might be somewhat readable. Basically, what we want to do is from the API Gateway, we will get like the method, the HTTP method of the call that is like typically gets for reading items, it's maybe put for creating items, it's delete for, well, deleting items, and we will get the path. And then based on those information, we build our response. So either we like get all the to-dos, maybe we get like one specific to-do for like the ID we get. Maybe we save a to-do item that we just have entered, or we delete it. Okay, has a space too much. Okay, and let's, as an example, quickly look at this method for like getting the to-dos. What we can see here, and this is the code to like access Dynamo DB. We have at the very top, we have our to-do table. So this should be the name. I call it to-do table 2, right? I think. So I have to adjust this. You don't have to adjust here anything if you like use the example names I have in the instructions. And we basically just read everything from the table. DynamoDB has some like special handling to make sure with this like last evaluated key to read everything, because it kind of reads in pages. But we don't have to care about any of this. You can also, after the workshop, go through the code in detail. It's Python. It should be somewhat readable if you're somewhat familiar with coding. I have deployed this now. And now let's configure a, do I want to do a test event? Do I have the test events here? Let me check. Because I think I did not have them linked. Yes. If you open like the code, you can go with the navigation like one step up in the folder, and then you have some test events here. So I will use the test event to get all, and it has like the content that we've seen before. It has a path, it has a method, and I just go back here, create this test event, same as we have done before, which is create a new test event. I even go copy the name, get all to-dos. And let's see if this works. We get nothing back because we don't have anything on our to-do list. So in general, this seems to work. But this is not actually, oops, don't want this. This is not actually what our goal is here. Our goal is to go actually one step further and create an API gateway so that we can like actually deploy this function and then call it from anywhere. So we leave the Lambda function like as it is for now, and we go create the API gateway. Here again, you can either just follow the instructions or follow in clicking along with me. So we go to API gateway, not storage gateway, that is a different service. We go to API gateway. And you already have some previous examples. We want to create an API. I didn't have this in the instructions, do I? Yeah, I think I skipped the first part. So we want to create an REST API. And we can give this any name we want. Yeah, let's maybe also call it 2. Oops, I don't see anything. All right, so we have created like in general, the API, and then here we can create methods and resources. Yep.
That's API, right?
Yes.
But I guess it's
What?
I mean,
Let me
endpoint type, but I don't have the name of it.
let me quickly check.
Like, where do I enter the name?
You can go for new API, and then okay.
Okay.
I can quickly show this again because I seem to have skipped this in instructions. So we in the API Gateway we can click Create API, go to REST API. REST API we click Build. Here we leave everything like REST API, new API as it is, and then here you can enter some kind of name, maybe to-do API. And then you should end up again in the same spot where the instructions basically start again. And then first, again, based on our instructions, we want to create a resource. Oops. I think, yes, we can give the resource path and resource name. Again, I just copy this from the instructions we have. We want to make sure to enable this field down here. So, yes? Yeah, in this case, it's not actually relevant. It shouldn't matter. I think I was trying something else when I wrote this, but I didn't test it without anymore, so I felt like, let's just leave it in there. But I agree. You can, for example, call it to-do API. It doesn't actually matter that much there. So here, this is then the step with creating a resource, which you will then see here on the side. And for this resource, we now want to create a method. Resource action, and we go here, create method. And here is again slightly weird UI. You have to go to select get, create this, and let me see if there's like Lambda function. Yes, we want to use the proxy integration. So here we want to use this checkbox. And then we actually have to now here enter our Lambda function that we created, like the crude Lambda function we have created before. If you get this permission, yes, we want to give it permission. This is what we're doing right now. I still see some confusion. I give you a moment.
Your name, in my case, the name is different. So how do you edit it?
You have created the method already?
Yes, but with the wrong.
You should. I think here, no, not documentation. Because you should definitely be able to edit this. Resources.
What I see in this drop down, I see the resource and the API. But when it comes to this method,
Sorry?
I just wanted to go in this start.
Yeah, I mean, you can also, exactly, you can select it and then go to delete method. You can just delete it and create a new one.
The integration request. And then select a different one.
Okay. So what we have done is we have created the resource, we have created the action, and now to actually make this available like outside, we want to deploy this. And this we can just do here with deploy API. And I think this is also an instruction. We create a new stage, which we call prod. We deploy directly to prod. Yes, of course.
Sorry, I had it in German. Can you go back into this?
Yes. You're here on resources. You can go.
Deploy API.
Exactly, deploy API.
Thank you.
How is it called in German?
Bereitstellen.
Bereitstellen. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Technically correct, but not intuitive.
I know. This is why. But then afterwards, I have
yes, you can like select new stage and give it the name prod, and the rest should be non-mandatory. And then what you get is you get an like URL to invoke this. So you can click on this, and then it's very disappointing. It says like missing authentication token, because this is actually this is just like the base URL. Here we now have to call our like the path we have, which should be to-dos, and that should theoretically work. Let me check. That should theoretically give internal server. Fair enough. We have a problem somewhere.
I'm worried.
Oh, nice. Now I'm a little jealous.
The only thing I had different than you was the Lambda.
I think
Yeah.
if it is internal server error, it's probably the case of Lambda function.
I think so, but
Than yours. I had the one from your recipe step by step, but you had another one there.
which one did we add in here? Select group to-dos, right? All right, I delete my method again, and let's try this again. Get Lambda function. Does this exist?
Because can you check if you have stateless too? Because in the
I have stateless too. Yeah.
That's if you go up here in the recipe, we named it stateless.
That's a good point. I mean, what we do want is the it's like the second one. We created two functions, right? We do want the second one. Should be that one. 5 minutes ago. No, it should be this one. It should be this one. Right. Let's try this again. And deploy.
I mean, the Lambda function, I think this could be the connection to the Dynamo database. How much do you need to do?
Not really a lot.
table in a Dynamo database?
Let's have a look at our function. We should get some monitor information maybe. So this reports. Oh, that's not actually. But that's a good point. Maybe let's create another test here and actually try to write to our database. I create another, because we still have some test events here. I go and copy my put test event. Where did I have it? Here. Yes. That actually seems to work. Oh, come on. I have to save this again. Save. Test.
Because the response
Yeah, it doesn't. Exactly. It doesn't write. Yes. Here, look at this. Yes, I had the wrong table name that just doesn't exist. Let's try this again. All right. Yes. Now we get a response with an empty list. Let's try our put again. Now we have stored something. And now we get it back. Okay. Yes. Let's go back to our API Gateway, here to our method. Fantastic. Now we actually get our to-do back. Booking vacation, also a good plan, by the way. All right. So that was a bit confusing now, I'm sorry. So the issue that we had is we didn't connect to like the Dynamo DB table. We couldn't store the information, so we always just got null. I think you should not have this problem if you use the names from the instructions. I had this problem because I still had some leftover tables and had to like choose different names, and I didn't properly write the name in here. So now this is the old one. Let's see who managed to like call this URL and actually get a result. It might be empty. Yes. Okay. If you want to have it non-empty, because I think we are actually fairly running out of time. If I look at the clock, you can do what I've just done before and use a test event. Because here, as I mentioned, we have some test events in the repository. You can use the put, which will create a, just one entry into our table. And as we have done earlier, you can here you can go to configure test events and then like give it some name and copy like the content we have here from the example. And then when you run this, you should then afterwards be able to, again, get this here. Okay. And let me quickly go back to this one. Because, yeah, looking at the time, I think I would kind of like to wrap this up. I'm still around, so we can still like answer some questions and still try to like solve some more problems. But what we've done now we have built a Lambda function that can like deal with like create, read, update, delete requests. We have a Dynamo DB table which stores our information. We have created a API. We didn't implement like all 4 like methods that we wanted. We actually only now implemented 1. But if you want to like do the other ones, you can like follow along with the instructions and like just check here which ones are missing. What we actually also skipped is the part down here, a reminder email. Again, how to like create, also with example code, how to create all those is inside instructions. So feel free to like try this out maybe later today or later this week or whenever. Also feel free to message me if things aren't working. Like feedback is very welcome. Also like today, we've seen like a few things that are missing in instructions, so that I will work on this. And kind of what for me at the end of a workshop like this is always the question, well, where to go from here? And of course, kind of step number 1 is always extend the functionality, like do the things we didn't actually have time in the workshop now that maybe are in instructions. You can also like add some more functionalities. Some are suggested here, or think about your own topics. And there is this whole topic as infrastructure as code that I kind of want to throw out here at this point. What we've done today is we've clicked around in the management console. We copied code from A to B, and then something doesn't work, and we change something, and we don't really know what have we changed. That works for experimenting, but if you're working in a team, it is very nice if like all of those clicks are like configuration or code, and that is called infrastructure as code. So if this is something you're interested in, you will find also when Googling this, like a lot of instructions how to continue in this direction. And of course, another like great thing to do is think of your own topic. You have now like some tools, also with instructions, some options, what you can do. This is meant also primarily as a like prep workshop for the Hack and Lead event. So if this is like something you're interested in, yeah, just have some tools to building your own applications. Let's look at what we have actually done. So we looked at what is the cloud. We looked at like service models. We looked at cloud providers to understand what are we actually talking about here. We looked at this provisioned versus serverless resources, had some discussion about, okay, what does that mean for budgeting? And basically, if you don't use it, you don't pay anything for it. We had introduction to AWS in general, and also like the AWS free tier to make sure you're using as much of like your free resources as you can. Then before the break, we created our very first simple Lambda function just to like figure out how does this actually work? How can I like deploy this and test this? Which I think in the end worked for, I think, everyone that at least, well, had access to an AWS account. We started building our to-do list app with like services such as API Gateway, Lambda, and Dynamo DB. We didn't actually, but yeah, that is the risk with workshops. Timing is a problem. We didn't actually get to build our like notification, but just go through the instructions. And I think it's actually like with setting up the schedule, it's quite fun and it's very like straightforward to do. So yeah, that is all from my side. You can, for example, find me on LinkedIn, or you already have like found my GitHub profile. If you have any questions now or later, feel free to contact me. Feel free to reach out. I'm always like happy for connection. And thank you very much for joining me in this workshop today.
Okay, thank you very much. It is really interesting. And as you mentioned, you're here a little bit longer, and for everybody who wants to stay a little bit longer as well, you're more than welcome. We have still, I think, some food, some drinks at the back. Clients for me as well, if anybody wants. So, yeah, feel free to stay.